Welcome back to the Freedom Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Sutherland, a business coach helping you either start your online business or if you're already in business, showing you profit that you didn't even know you had. Those are my two specialties. You can find out more about that on my website at lindsaysutherland.com. In today's episode, we are talking about tip number 3 of what I would have done differently if I could go back in time and start over again. Already, we talked about branding and the importance of branding and 3 strategic ways to build a brand. Might surprise you. So go back and listen to that episode. The tip number 2 was focusing on building an email list. Look, I know it's like something everybody says, but in that episode, we also talk a little bit more about the importance of that and why that's important to do. Plus, I give you some tips on one way specifically that has helped me more than double the return on my email downloads with my lead magnet. So be sure to listen to that episode for more details on that. And then today we are talking about marketing and what I would have done differently in that realm when I just got started. And remember, when I got started, I was mostly just doing my podcast. I didn't really have a product or an offer at that time. So my marketing was all around driving traffic to my podcast. And so when we're talking about marketing, really, that's all it is it is driving traffic to your site, your product, your service, whatever it is that you're promoting. And so with that being said, we want to focus on a strategic way to do that doesn't burn us out, especially, and more importantly, lets us do things that we love to do. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I dive into that, I just want to remind you that we recently hosted the Online Business Bootcamp, which was a full day of 7 hours worth of training for people who were just like you, just getting started in the online business. They were not sure about what steps they needed to take, and they were able to join me. It was an amazing time, so collaborative, such a great little community. It really had a good vibe. Everybody was participating and a lot of good information, stuff that I wish I would have had information given to me when I started. And that's kind of what was my premise behind it, just not only to give people that guidance, but really to clear the water for, what it takes to really start an online business. Because I know what it's like, my friends, when we get out there into the chaos of the digital world. There is so many options. It's like a smorgasbord or a buffet of information. It's hard to know sometimes what you need to choose, what's right for you, how to really get started. And when you think about it, when you think about what you're doing online, you're I guess, shooting in the dark, right? You're kind of thinking you know, what you need next. So you start Googling based on that. What you need something that can take you from the very beginning and curate the information to walk you from point A to point B all the way, right? Without like piecemealing and stitching together different ideas and business practices until a year or two later, you finally have it figured out. Okay, that's what happened to me. That's why we're doing these episodes, because I really want to lay the land out for you and show you what I would have done differently in 3 simple steps. To get the full gamut of what would be like to start an online business, my friend, you get access to the Online Business Bootcamp course, which is available for only $97. That's how much I charged people to join me at the Online Business Bootcamp workshop for that day. So many people said this course was worth way more. They couldn't believe I was only charging $97. And so, listen, I want you to get in at the ground level while it is in its infancy stages and take advantage of this deal. One time, one price. Now, as this course is developed, as more and more people buy it, it will not last. That price is not going to stick around. I will eventually be moving it up to that $500 that I know it's worth. So be sure to get access early right now. Head over to lindsaysutherland.com/store and sign up for the Online Business Bootcamp DIY course. Now, for those of you who are in the beginning stages and you've been listening to this podcast and you're like pre-beginning stages, you're thinking, I'd love the idea of starting an online business, but I don't want to invest $97 yet because I really haven't figured out what I want to do. My friend, you need to take the focus course. That class is going to get you the clarity you need to get you off the ground. listen, that's all you need right now is clarity. You need to know what is your passion, your hobby, your interest, your talent, whatever it is that you can monetize and turn into a profitable business. So head over to the store, lindsaysutherland.com/store, and register for the focus class, because that class will give you what you need to get your ideas under your belt, give you the air you need to get to put into your wings and to fly, because it's what you're ready for. And then you can move into the course from there, the online business boot camp. Okay, so let's talk about tip number 3 of what I would do differently if I went back and did an online business again for the beginning. This is it. When it comes to marketing, there's so many things to do. You know, I've even had them out here on the podcast. We've had amazing, intelligent experts that are so gifted in what they're doing. And the cool thing is, every single one of them is right. That's what makes it hard for you who's just getting started. Everybody seems like their idea makes sense. The trick, though, is to find the idea that makes sense for you. So, for example, this is something I see time and again. So many people would love the idea of starting an online business, but they don't want to be on social media. They don't like the idea of social media. Now, some people love social media, and if that's you, then by golly, go for it. But for those of you who are really like, do I have to? I get asked that so much. The answer is no, you don't have to. In the course, I talk about at least 14 different lead generation strategies, but there is one that I highlight specifically that every online business person needs, and that's Pinterest. I talk about Pinterest a lot, and if I would have understood the power of Pinterest when I started, I would have been way more diligent about building out my Pinterest. I would put more time and energy into that even than producing reels and content for social media. And let me tell you why. When I create a reel or a TikTok, it's great and it lasts a while. Some go viral, some don't. Some grow my follower list, some don't. It's a shot in the dark each and every time, and it's time consuming to spend. I was spending about an hour a day creating content for social media and blasting it out to every channel and really pushing all of my things, right? Growing my channels, and that's all great. And I mean, it's fine. I'm not saying it was wrong. It's just that there was a smarter way to do it, and that was with Pinterest. Pinterest, when you make a pin, it lives forever. Pinterest, unlike most people think Pinterest is just a place for nice recipes and little cutesy crafts. It definitely is good for that. But it is a search engine. So when you want to drive traffic somewhere, like your website or your podcast or your blog or your YouTube channel, using Pinterest to drive traffic is hands down the most effective way to do it. It's proven that the people who are on Pinterest are looking for your content. Look, here's the difference. Think about it from the perspective of your user. Somebody on Instagram, they're just scrolling Instagram, okay, or TikTok, and they come across your video and they're like, hey, I like her video. That's cool. Like, and maybe they follow it. Now you keep producing content and they're kind of still deciding if they really want to check out your stuff. Like, it has to be a very compelling piece of social content to get people to go into your bio, click the link, and move forward. Very, very few people will take that action. Very few people will even get past like 2 seconds of your video. So Pinterest, however, they're searching. They're saying how to start an online business. Your pin pops up. Oh, I want to know more about this. They click. It's easy to click the pin, okay? Or they save it for later. Here's the deal. It will drive traffic to your site. And I'm going to give you some numbers. Just don't take my word for it. Let me explain it to you. This is when I personally saw the power of Pinterest. So some of you might know that when I started my podcast at first, I also started the podcast for a local business here that at the time I was working for. And I have to admit, I was much more diligent about Pinterest for them than I was for me, mainly because it was fun. They're a log cabin company. Their pictures were beautiful. It was easier. I could just make pictures of pins. I didn't even have to, or pins that were pictures. I didn't have to put graphics and stuff. Anyhow, I also had more time because I was there 8 hours of the day. So what I did for them is with each episode we did, I would produce 30 pins per episode. and then I would go into Tailwind and I would put those each pin on up to 5 boards. Well, that means 30 pins got placed 5 times, which was 150 pins per episode. Okay, that's huge. Now, to be strategic about it, and so Pinterest didn't kick me out for being spam, I would direct the links to different things. One would go to the main website, one went to our podcast website, one went to Apple website, you see. So I diversified the links so they weren't all going to the same place. It's really important. I don't want you to get in trouble if you go try that on Pinterest. You got to diversify the links. You got to make it different or else they will shut you down. There's some nuances to know, and I do have a course for that, by the way, about Pinterest. Anyway, that's not the point of this conversation. The point of this, though, is that when I was doing the training, I was talking about Pinterest, and I realized, this was the thing. When I transitioned from working full-time for this log cabin company into working for myself, we kind of took a little break with their podcast, and I wasn't spending as much time as diligently on their stuff as I was my own. And for 6 months, their Pinterest account kind of just hung out. Now, here's where this gets interesting. If you don't give your Instagram or your TikTok attention for 6 months, guess what? Nothing happens. Nothing happens. But they didn't give their Pinterest attention for about 6 months, and it was still the second leading driver of traffic to their website. Their pins still were getting like 700,000 plus interactions a month. Their pins are awesome, by the way. I mean, their stuff is awesome, so that's helpful. But my point, though, here is that it was in action for 6 months and still was getting action on Pinterest. Why is that? Because, again, it's a search engine. So people searching for log cabin stuff were finding their pins. All that work I had done so diligently for all those months before was continuing to pay off. And that, my friends, is the power of Pinterest, which is why I encourage all of the people that take the bootcamp, you listening, and so on, to really invest in Pinterest. Anybody that has an online business can be investing in Pinterest strategy. It is so powerful. Okay, that wraps up this episode. So there's your 3 hot topics of what I would do differently if I started over today in the online space. And you've just benefited from my learning experience, I suppose. And so with that being said, I hope that you can share this episode with anybody else that you know who's in the online space and getting started as well. And be sure to head over to lindsaysutherland.com to take advantage of these incredible deals that we talked about earlier today. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Until next time, bye for now.